Hello, my name is Gustavo Casaneo. This is a pre-recorded presentation for the 2020 meeting of the Society for Mathematical Psychology. The title of my presentation is the Trail Making Test, a simple model based on a eye tracking study. And it has been done in collaboration with people from my group at Neufisur, at the Universidad Nacional del Sur, Jessica Del Punta and Adrián Jiménez Gandica. And also it has been done in collaboration with part of the Centro Integral de Neurociencias Aplicadas, which is grouping a lot of people working in mental health. And what we are going to talk about is the train making test. And from the psychological point of view, this is a neuropsychological test of visual attention and task switching. It's formed by two parts. In part A, the subjects are instructed to connect 25 dots arranged in a sheet of paper. The subjects are instructed to connect all the dots as fast as possible and maintaining the order on the sequence. And the part B is similar, but in this case, they are instructed to connect not only numbers, but numbers and letters in alternating way and sequentially. So the test is providing a lot of information about visual search speed, scanning, speed processing, mental flexibility, and allow us to check executive functioning. The test has been proved to be sensitive to detect cognitive impairments in the frontal cortex, and the TMT is including many batteries around the world, which are prepared to check or to detect neurological disease and neuropsychological impairments. How is arranged the part A? As you can see here, the test is organized as a sort of spiral until 11, which is an spiral going counterclockwise. And then at 11, it changed the rule, it changed the orientation, it turns into a clockwise orientation. And as you can see, I divided in different colors, different parts or regions in different colors. We can identify 6 different regions until 6. From 6 to 10 is the second one. From 10 to 12 is the third one. From 12 to 22 is the fourth. From 22 to 23 is the next one, and 24 and 25 is the next one. And what we have done in our research, we just transformed this paper version to the digital version. We present the test on a computer screen, and we register all the eye movement when people is doing the test. We instruct to the subject where the one is located at the beginning of the test. And each time they found a number on the sequence, the one corresponding to the sequence, they have to press the space bar. As you can see in here, the behavior is like this. People is looking around for the numbers, and when they found the number corresponding to the sequence, they stop. They take a little time in there and then continue searching for the others. That is how it's working the test. What we have done in our research, we are able to model the data, the eye tracking data, with the position of the gaze on the screen, the position of the little blue dot moving around the plane, and that the data from the eye tracking is, as you can see here, in dots. So what we did was to model that movement, introducing 2 equations, one equation for the eyeball and one equation for the pupil. And the pupil is what is registered by the eye tracker, in our case, an eye link 2. So we propose, as part of our model, a force which is producing the saccade movement, which is producing the rotation of the eye, which is represented by X. And so we solve this equation, obtaining this solution. And with this solution, we can represent the movement of the eyeball. And as you can see, it works quite well, except in this region. And this region is representing essentially by the movement of the post-saccadic oscillation, which are oscillation of the pupil. And when we incorporate both, combine both together, we obtain solutions like this, which are representing quite well the whole thing. And we also check the peak velocity as a function of the saccade magnitude, which is a traditional picture, which is well known in eye movement. And we can see that our model represents quite well the data in general. So what we have done in that way, we introduce an equation, Langevin equation, to describe the movement of the blue dot. It means of the gaze along the plane when it's working or when it's solving the TMT test. So in that way, we introduce an equation which is able to represent the whole dynamic of the problem. So in that way, we transform the trail-making test from a psychological test to a physical problem, where we have a mechanical process involving a particle, the blue dot, and forces acting on it, which are producing the saccades. The part A of the test implies a physical process with a variant internal movement and different statistical regimes. And the test provides, in that way, a link between psychological constructs and physical variables. In particular, we are interested in connecting speed processing and mental flexibility with Langevin equation, velocity, and other physical magnitudes. That model is quite complicated, so we decided to start with a simpler one, and we decided to model the dynamic of the particle advancing on the sequence, only on the sequence. So we introduced this equation, which is able to represent quite well the dynamic of the points, as you can see here. How is the variation of that on time? So in doing that, we are able to introduce a few times where the person is finding the numbers, and with the sum of those delta time, which are the difference between the times needed to find each of the number, we can define the total time of the test. And we also are able to define a velocity, which is a velocity in each of the region that we have in here on the test. So we can define a velocity on each of the stage of the test. And with the time, the total time, we can define the regular advance velocity, which is essentially the ratio between the total number of the tests and the total time of the performance. This is what is usually associated by the psychologists as the speed processing. But we know from our analysis that is a better representation of the processing velocity of processing is given by the average of the total of the total set of velocities that we have in each of the part of the test. So in that way, we are able to define different velocities at different places. And in here, we have plot the velocity corresponding to the mean subject. It means taking the total of 50 persons that we have in our study. We average the total velocities, and we have found in here the rate, the regular advance velocity as given by this number, the mean velocity for the total of the subject as given in the green curve, and then we have the representation of each of the velocities, as you can see here. And this is what we have done and in our model. What we have found on that, as you can see, if you compare in the first stage of the test until number 6, where we have this color, as you can see here, the velocity on that part of the test is smaller than the regular advance velocity, And this can be understood as the situation where the person performing the test is searching around and trying to know the structure of the test. So you see that the person is going around at a different number until it finds the corresponding on the sequence. Once it found the 6, the movement of the mean person, it means most of them are doing that, they advance quite fast until finding the number 10, and where the situation changed, because finding 11 and finding the fact that finding 12 under the fact that the rule is changing, that takes time. And then, as you can see, the velocity is again going down if you compare it with the regular advanced velocity. And this can be seen in here also, because people is going around trying to find again the new rule of application. After that, as you can see, the velocity increase again from 12 to 22, the velocity increase again. And when you arrive to 22 and try to find 23, what happens? In here, 24 is hiding a little bit 23 because it happens something known as visual crowding. And then the people is again spending a little time to trying to find the number. And then once the 23 is found, 24 and 25 is quite easy to be found. So as we can notice in here, people is spending part of the time searching for number, looking around on the test, and this can be count, and this is associated to all these regions, so we can count how long the person is going around, is looking around. So we can identify which is the percentage of the test that the people is looking around, searching for numbers, and we can define the searching index, which is essentially proportion of the test where the person is looking around. And we can see that most of the people is, or the mean of the total people that we have in here, 42 persons, is taking around the 33% of the tests which are looking around. And as we can see here, there are people who is searching quite little, something like the 20% of the total of the test, and there are some others which are around the 50% of the test. It means half of the test they are searching around for the numbers. So we can introduce also what we call the subject index regularity, which is a number which is giving information how is the performance in each of the region of the test. And also we can introduce the regularity, the relative regularity index, which is a comparison of this index in comparison with the mean subject, which is taking the whole in consideration. So we define in that way an index which is allowing us to understand in a closed form how is the behavior in each part of the test for all the subjects. So in blue we can see the mean behavior, the behavior of the mean subject, and in green we see the deviation, and in red what we are seeing is the behavior of one of a particular participant. As a conclusion, we can say that the evaluation, neuropsychological evaluation, in many cases involves the vision as the source of incoming information to the brain. This makes possible the use of eye tracking as a tool for gathering data about the process involved. So that it means that the dynamic of the movement of the eye can be registered with the eye tracker and can be represented in terms of physical equation and connected with the mechanics. So in that way, we can connect neuropsychological construct, and this can be associated with physical magnitudes. That is quite interesting. And in that way, in particular for the TMT, the analysis of the physical TMT problem allowed the introduction of significant psychological magnitudes, and this can be done not for many other neuropsychological tools. Thank you very much for your time.